ball is life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. You want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah, the Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it! Wow!
The ruling on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never gonna catch us slipping.
With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome to Pass the Outlet, episode number 29. I'm your co-host, Michael Benjamin, joined as always by my wingman, Chris Patrick. Chris, summertime is here. How you doing tonight, man?
Mike, I'm doing fantastic. I mean, the Suns got the finals MVP, the league champion. You know, we are on top, but unfortunately, I'm not talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm sure we'll get into all that, but man, what a offseason it's been. Moving, wheeling, dealing, players getting signed, players getting investigated for gambling. It's crazy time, man. But how are you, Mike? How's it going, bro?
I'm doing great, and it's hard to believe that the NBA Finals just finished up 9 days ago, but Chris already touched on it. Man, we got a lot to get into. But first, I got to plug Heat Check Podcast number 40. If you guys have not seen that, please make sure to go back and watch that. Streaming right now on Valley Sports Plug, YouTube, and all podcast streaming services. We did a very big deep dive into the new 2025 NBA draft class for the Phoenix Suns. But on today's episode, it's all about the money, baby. You know we have to look into the Malik Beasley gambling investigations. The free agency for the NBA 2025-2026 season just kicked off yesterday, and oh my goodness, has there been a lot of moves. We got to see what the Phoenix Suns did today. We're also going to move into a new version of the outlet point guard, which I'm very excited to present to you guys. And of course, you know Chris is going to bring it with Reddit Reacts. But before we start, I got to say thank you to everybody who's with us live, watching back on playback, or listening on podcast streaming services. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to us here on Valley Sports Plug YouTube. And follow us on all socials at AZ_VSP to stay in touch with everything that's going on in the Valley. But Chris, let's start off the top with the Malik Beasley news. Oh, it was only a matter of time, right? But let's get into it. It is a couple of days old, but now federal authorities are investigating Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets. We're getting reminiscing thoughts of Jonte Porter, the former Toronto Raptors, who no longer will be able to play in the NBA ever again in his lifetime. But man, these allegations stem from the 2023-2024 season when Beasley played for the Milwaukee Bucks, had a solid season as well, and we know he was a true contributor for the Detroit Pistons in their playoff run this past year. But it sounds like at least one prominent U.S. sportsbook detected unusually heavy betting interest on Beasley's statistics beginning around January 2024, and specifically for a game against the Blazers, where his odds, where he was supposed to record fewer than 2.5 rebounds, moved from plus 120 to minus 250. Beasley ended up finishing that game with 6 rebounds, so most of those unusual bets lost, but Chris, it's all coming out now. Beasley is being sued for $2.5 million by his former sports agency, Hazen Sports Management, for breach of contract, alleging unpaid loans. The guy doesn't even have an attorney for this suit yet. So a gentleman by the name of Steve Haney, who's technically representing Beasley at the moment, was the one who had to make the comments in regard to this investigation. And I quote, "An investigation is not a charge. Malik is afforded the same right of the presumption of innocence as anyone else under the U.S. Constitution. As of now, he has not been charged with anything." Chris is a tough look because he was in line to sign a 3-year, $42 million deal until obviously these talks have now been put on hold, but lots of information thrown at you. And this is still kind of late breaking news for the NBA, but what are your initial thoughts on this one, man?
And it's not good for the sport. And I mean, there's a reason that there's so many strict rules around this sort of thing. I mean, even Nico, who joined us on Heat Check Podcast episode 40, go check it out now. He is on the field crew for the Milwaukee Brewers, and even he isn't allowed to gamble on baseball. And he's not even on the field able to affect the game. Like, these players know that they're not supposed to gamble. And we're in this new digital age where you can bet on sports at your fingertips. It's legal in, I don't know about most states, but a lot of states. You just can't be doing this kind of stuff. And like, they're highly regulated, highly scrutinized. So of course they're going to watch out for this kind of thing. I don't want to joke about it, but I'm going to make the joke anyway, as corny as it might be. All Malik Beasley had to do was have his interpreter place the bets for him, and he would have been perfectly fine and not culpable for any of these allegations. But again, yes, these allegations are not charges or whatever. It's just being investigated. But there's some pretty damning clips that I've seen floating around there. I don't know how true it is, but there was one in particular where they said in the game, the line was like 7.5 and they were down or up by 6 or down by 6 or something with like 5 seconds left. And they make a free throw and he calls for the play or the ball real quick and then rushes down court and slams it in. Is this another one where what was he doing? This is the one I was talking about right here.
Yeah, this has got to be the one against.
He's
the
like,
Clippers
give me
here.
the ball. Yeah. So they're down by 9, and he cuts it because the line was 7.5. So they cover. He covers the spread potentially there. And like, what does it do to like basically like you're not going to come back in that game. Any normal person is just grabbing the ball, letting the time run out. It's not good. And it sucks. Like, it sounds like maybe he was having financial troubles and that's why he was trying to recoup some losses potentially, or some poor financial decisions by gambling on himself. But man, if you just bet on yourself by playing good basketball, you would have been in line for a big payday. And that contract you mentioned, 3 years, $45 million is not chump change.
No, and it's a tough look. And I already touched on it. You would think that these players are taking the example of what happened with Jonte Porter just last season, Chris, who got the ban for life from the NBA. And I feel like even if you're in a situation where the money isn't right and you're in crazy amounts of debt, especially with how he's played the past 2 seasons, you know the money is coming back. So if this is true, once again, these are still just allegations at the end of the day. This is, you hope that this is, well, what's the famous phrase where they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This has got to be the final straw for NBA players. And it's funny. We love Twitter. It's a wonderful place. You always start to have these content creators come out and start dissecting different areas. And I saw a funny video today about Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II. Wasn't even playing in a game. And you can see it's at the end of a game and a line is like 11.5. And he's like covering his mouth because his teammate is at the free throw line and he has to hit 2 to cover. And basically they can't give up a 3-pointer to hold that line. And they're playing the Washington Wizards. Garbage time. Game's over. What do? Wizards run down, hit a 3 at the buzzer, and the line is blown. And he is like visibly shaken, Chris. So those are always good for some laughs, but those are bad optics, right? We talked a lot about optics over the past couple of weeks, and this is not a good thing for Malik Beasley, obviously. The Detroit Pistons, because he was a very, very key component to them making the playoffs for the first time in a number of years. But as the NBA as a whole, man, this is the last place that you want to be going. But unfortunately, Chris, I'll ask you this. Do you think this will be the last time that we will ever see some kind of investigation or allegations for gambling on players?
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no. It's like I said, it's the new age, man. It's right at their fingertips. It's right on your phone. And like you're saying with the example of Gary Payton II and these other guys, you're so dumb to make it so obvious. There's a camera on you at almost all times. Like, these are nationally televised games. Like, the NBA is one of the most broadcasted sports, like, that's readily available. And these clips end up on Twitter, and people are gonna do their sleuthing. And now you have, like, what is it, the FBI or the federal government investigating this. It's not the last time. And the league office and the Players Association is sending out memos. They're having off-season trainings on this, but people are still going to do it.
It's going to happen. The tale as old as time, man. It will not stop, unfortunately, in professional sports because of how easy it is. You hit it right on the head. But we're going to monitor it. We'll keep you guys posted, and I'm sure you're going to see all the news that comes down from not only his civil case, but what happens with Malik Beasley if he is found guilty. He won't be in the NBA no longer. But Chris, it's time to move on a different part of the money that is truly earned. And that's because the 2025 NBA free agency has begun. And we have to start right off the rip with the players who are staying put. And it's the big money men, Chris. Let's just talk about a few names first. A team that has been in the limelight, obviously, for the past 12 hours now, the Milwaukee Bucks, they re-signed Bobby Portis to 3-year, $44 million deal. The Houston Rockets, who just traded for Phoenix Suns, former player Kevin Durant, re-signed the young gun Jabari Smith Jr. to a big deal, 5 years, $122 million. And then big man, former sixth man of the year, Naz Reid in Minnesota, signed a large deal as well. 5 years, $125 million. But then some real familiar names got some huge money. Chris, Kyrie Irving with the Dallas Mavericks declined his player option and signed a 3-year, $119 million deal. Julius Randle is staying put with the Minnesota Timberwolves, 3 years, $100 million. James Harden declined his option, 2 years, $81.5 million. And as you see here on the graphic, the ageless wonder LeBron James exercised his $52.6 million player option. And I got some thoughts on this one, Chris, as well. But the two huge, big-time guys who have signed the biggest contracts so far is the Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr., Supermax, 5-year, $240 million. And the news that just dropped a couple of hours ago, the NBA MVP, Finals MVP, basically every award winner that you can name, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander signed a 4-year, $285 million Supermax, which will pay him $71 million per year, the most in any contract in any NBA history to be paid out per season, and he'll be in OKC through the 2031 season. Chris, lots of guys that we know, lots of big money being thrown at them. Are you surprised by any of these names, man?
Honestly, not too much. The one I think a little bit is Naz Reid. I feel like that was a big spend for a guy like that. But we did just get the news yesterday, I think it was, that the NBA salary cap increased by 10% over the last year with the new media deals that are coming out and the TV rights deals. It's just the new money in the NBA. The SGA contract is what, blows my mind, but it's not like unexpected. It's like averages out to like 72.25 million per season. And it's going to be like the fourth year of his contract is going to be like $78 million in a season. Like, we're entering the territory where guys are going to be earning $1 million per game. And this all tees up Devin Booker, who's currently in talks to extend his contract, in line for a big extension where he could get $75 million per year as part of that deal. That is just so much money to even fathom. I don't know. I mean, you gotta extend Jaren Jackson Jr. Kyrie Irving, I think, still has some gas left in the tank once he rehabs from his injury. James Harden is kind of rehabbing the end of his career a little bit to earn some money. The most interesting one for me, I think, is LeBron opting into his player option because he's 41 years old. I think what I've heard is he probably wanted a multi-year deal, but maybe the Lakers weren't seeing eye to eye. It's Luka's team now, so going to be interesting to see what happens there if he asks for a trade or whatnot. And we can get into that some more if you want. But yeah, I think the Naz Reid one is probably the one that stood out to me as far as like, whoa, that's a lot of money for that dude.
Yeah, I mean, talk about another guy on the same team, Julius Randle. I don't think the market was as large for him as we thought, because now he is starting to get the moniker as a player who cannot perform in the playoffs, unfortunately. He got a nice deal, $33 million per year. He was a great player for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's an all-star, previous all-star. He's still a good player, but is he a difference maker? I just don't know, especially with the reloaded West. I mean, Chris, you look at this graphic, literally all these guys are in the West right now. But it's funny to think of, the tail end guys seeing almost the twilight in their career. It's crazy to me that James Harden is still going to get $40 million a year. And I think that's just because, like you said, the cap space is so large now. James Harden is not taking you anywhere, man. I almost might say the same for Kyrie Irving, even though he is still a prolific ball handler and incredible scorer of the basketball. But he's so injured, and James Harden we know what he does in game sevens of the playoffs. Like, I'm surprised some of these teams aren't trying to hold the line to keep down the money and see how they can reallocate it around. But I like Memphis bringing back Jaren Jackson Jr. He's still a super young guy, and he has a bright future ahead of him. And obviously, Shea, he did everything he had to do to become the highest paid player in NBA history. But Chris, I got a hot take for you, and I want to see if you might be aligned with me on this one. I think that this is the last season that LeBron James plays in the NBA. And the reason behind this is because I feel like there's going to be too much tumultuous energy in Los Angeles if he sticks it out there that entire season with the changing of ownership, with now what it sounds like DeAndre Ayton on his way to Los Angeles. That's a lot of headaches for a guy who is over 40, who doesn't need to prove anything anymore and can cash out one final time for $50+ million, unless he's traded to a place that truly has championship aspirations next year. Because I think the way that this Lakers team is built, they're not toppling the top 3 teams, and add on a few of them, because some teams have made some moves very early within the first 48 hours. This could be the last year of LeBron James, Chris. Am I crazy?
No, Mike, you're not. And that is crazy to think about, because it seems like LeBron James has been playing NBA basketball for my entire life. I mean, literally since I was I think 10 years old. LeBron James has been in the NBA. This is going to be his 23rd, 24th season, something like that. That is just, it's crazy to think about an NBA league without LeBron James. But I mean, 40, 41 years old, man. I don't think you're crazy. Like the Lakers, like I was saying, they've made it kind of clear that it's going to be Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic's team. And I don't know if LeBron likes not being the top dog. And I can't really see him doing a Vince Carter type move where you are willing to take a back seat, be more of a sixth man. I mean, that's what LeBron's going to, I think, have to do if he wants to win a ring. He might do this last contract with the Lakers, but then, I mean, will his ego allow him to go sign a deal somewhere for 15, 20 million, anywhere less than these massive deals? I mean, LeBron is, if he's not already a billionaire, he's going to be very soon. I don't think he really knows what his life looks like outside of basketball, to be honest. I don't see him getting into coaching. I know he's done some movies. I don't know if he'd be a TV guy. I don't know. I don't know what post NBA career LeBron James looks like, but you're not crazy. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he does this last season with the Lakers and then he's done, because I'm thinking about it, man. If he does demand a trade, if he couldn't come to a agreement on a longer term deal, 2 or 3 more years, where does he go? Where does LeBron James fit in? He can't go back to Cleveland. They're already bursting at the seams with their financial situation. What is another team that's close to contending where LeBron would put them over the top? And I don't think a team wants to take on $52 million for a 1-year proposition on a guy who's that old. I think there would be teams interested, but I don't know if there would be contending teams interested. And I don't know if that's what LeBron wants. He is one of 2 players with a no trade clause. So he does get to dictate where he goes. And it might be just staying with the Lakers, finishing out his career, and calling it a day, man. So no, I think you're on point, man.
Yeah. I mean, You might be right on line in regard to where the big money is not with the true title contenders. And is LeBron James willing to take a step back with his ego in that? I think he could if he wants to give it one more go to tie Kobe Bryant, because it's already the LeBron, Michael Jordan GOAT debate. But if you add one more championship to it, I think the numbers that LeBron has cemented himself over his 20 plus career year, then a lot of those conversations go mute. But safe to say the new era of NBA basketball is here, Chris. And we got to move on to the players who are moving, the guys that are on the move. And it's some surprising names to start. I got to start with a guy that you talked about, or a team that you just talked about, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lose Ty Jerome, who made a great name for himself after how he performed this past season. Clear cut, I thought, for the most part, sixth man of the year. But he signs a 3-year, $28 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. Man, all of these moves have happened so fast, Chris. It was hard to keep this list, but we got Jordan Clarkson going to the New York Knicks for a reported 1-year deal. Old man Kevon Looney signing with the New Orleans Pelicans for 2 years, $16 million. Don't really know what New Orleans is doing. Brook Lopez is going to the Clippers for 2 years, $16 million. And then some guys on our graphic, D'Angelo Russell heading to Dallas to pair back up with Anthony Davis, 2 years, $13 million. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a defensive stud, signs a nice contract with the Atlanta Hawks, 4 years, $62 million. And the big breaking news of today, other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, was the Milwaukee Bucks signing Miles Turner, 4 years, $107 million. And in order to make this work, Chris, they had to waive and stretch Damian Lillard, who is going to be owed over $22 million a year for the next 5 years, Chris. So basically, by adding Miles and waiving Lillard, you're adding over $50 million to your roster of assets. Let's just start right there, Chris.
Oh my God.
What the hell are the Milwaukee Bucks doing?
Dude, I don't know. Like, obviously Dame is probably not going to play this next season, but that happening on Bobby Bonilla Day is chef's kiss. Like, you can't make this up. Like, it's crazy because now I'm hearing within the same day that 20 of the 30 NBA teams are calling Damian Lillard to see if they can get him on a 2-year deal where basically he's going to sit out, rehab in their facility, and then play one more season after that. I don't know, man. And you can say, what are the Bucks doing, but what are the Pacers doing, man? Like, they were just so afraid to go over that tax apron that they ship out Miles, not even ship out, just let him walk, just let Miles Turner walk. It's confusing, man. That's a big move. I mean, the Bucks, man, it's confusing. A lot of these, there's so many moves, and like you listed some there that I hadn't even been on my radar. I didn't know Brook Lopez was going to the Clippers. I didn't know Jordan Clarkson was on the move. You listed a few others. I mean, shit, we even got Duncan Robinson signing with the Pistons on a 3-year, $48 million deal. Dennis Schroeder to the Kings, 3-year, $45 million. Like, a lot of moving and shaking going on. And I think just to touch on the Bucks, decision there one last time, you move off of Damian Lillard and you piss off Giannis in the process. So is that going to be the next domino to fall? Is it going to be a couple days from now we hear about Giannis, changing hands, moving teams? If he comes to the West, man, I'm going to be so pissed, Mike. I don't know if I can do it.
He's coming to the West. He's going to the Spurs. But that's not happening yet, Chris. I understand what the Milwaukee Bucks are doing. You lost Brook Lopez, so you have to bring in a similar big who can stretch the floor. And Miles Turner did that and has done that great for the past, I'd say, 5-6 years. He's not young, though. I think he's over a decade in the NBA. He has been the Indiana Pacers starting center for the past 10 years. But in order to make it happen, the wave and stretch of Damian Lillard, to add that much onto your books, it's just crazy, man. And it just makes me think, what kind of situation are the Milwaukee Bucks going to be in here shortly, especially if Giannis leaves? And that's what also scares me, this kind of move. You get worrisome as a Suns fan as well, because what if the Suns are so desperate to get off of Bradley Beal, they do the same thing. If they wave and stretch and we're adding, $20 million for the next 5 years as well, Chris, now we're talking about your 5-year plan is cemented. And man, I don't want the Suns to go that route. So there's still hope, obviously, for a trade. But I'd be remiss if I didn't make this comment, Chris. Out of the guys that have moved so far, and specifically these guys on the graphic, the one that I like the most here is Jordan Clarkson going to the New York Knicks, man. I think cementing that guard position off of the bench, we know that Jordan Clarkson can fill it up from anywhere. He is getting a little bit older, but he's still a semi-young guy, and he can fill it up, man. So I know the Knicks needed to get a little bit stronger on the defensive end, but it never hurts to add more weapons in the secondary, aka the second unit. And I like that move, and I think the New York Knicks are right around the corner for being a team that you have to put as top 2 or 3 for title contention, specifically for next year, especially with Tyrese Halliburton going down and just the East being completely wide open, Chris. But it's time to get into some Valley ties, man. The Phoenix Suns have made some moves, and obviously some other well-known faces, formerly of the Phoenix Suns, are on the move as well. But let's start with guys that are departing the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we have Cody Martin, who will be released. I'm not sure if it's completely official yet, but it's freeing up $8.7 million in the cap. Mason Plumlee is headed to the Charlotte Hornets on a one-year, $3.6 million deal. The way that the Suns are swapping centers with the Charlotte Hornets, it just needs to be studied. There needs to be a documentary at this point.
It's getting weird.
It's getting weird. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. A guy that we touched on the Heat Check podcast, Tyus Jones, is headed to Orlando for a 1-year, $7 million deal. They're hopeful that the big ticket trade for Desmond Bane pays quick dividends because that they have leveraged their future as well with 5 of their first-round draft picks going to the Memphis Grizzlies. But then our old guys, our 2021 gentlemen, let's start with Cam Johnson getting traded to the Denver Nuggets for Michael Porter Jr. and a 2032 first-round pick. That lets you know that they coveted Cam Johnson more than Michael Porter Jr., which I don't think is crazy because Cam Johnson has been solid for the past couple of seasons, especially in Brooklyn. And then the former number 1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, has been bought out by the Portland Trail Blazers. Chris, sounds like he took $10 million less in the buyout just so he'd be able to pick a team. But the reports are coming out, and tell me if this is surprising at all. The Blazers reportedly grew frustrated with his behavior. He was showing up late for team flights and practices. He was skipping rehab sessions. He's slamming chairs when he subbed out of games. He's throwing tantrums in the locker room after being benched for lack of effort. Just not surprised with DeAndre Ayton, and I unfortunately think the best of DA is behind him. But Chris, I'll pass it over to you, man. Out of these guys that are moving on, what catches your eye?
I mean, you nailed it right there at the end. First and foremost, Ayton getting bought out by the Trailblazers is absolutely hilarious to me. I mean, it makes me feel good as a Suns fan knowing that we weren't crazy. Like the Suns weren't the problem. Genuinely, DeAndre Ayton was the problem. And I know on this last Heat Check podcast we did, you had mentioned that you really wish that they would have stuck it out one more year with Booker, Durant, Paul, Ayton, and see if we could make it work. And I still don't disagree. I just think it was really hard for them to get DeAndre Ayton on board, and he might have been the reason that they blew this all up. I don't think it was necessarily Chris Paul. I just think Booker and Durant were like, I'm fucking done with this guy. Like, get this lazy dude out of here. He's holding us back. We need to make some moves. And so thank God Portland took him. I know obviously the Yusuf Nurkic experiment didn't exactly work out here, but it is funny. Like I don't know if we talked about it off podcast or on, but him not making it to the stadium because of a snowstorm or some ice in the road, like not planning accordingly. Those reports that you just listed, it's a guy that has so much talent, so much potential, but absolutely no work ethic or drive to make anything of it. Like this guy, generational talent might have been extreme, but he could have been a solid starter and potentially like a perennial all-star if he really like set his mind and dedicated himself to it. But he just doesn't have it in him. I will get off of just ranting on DeAndre Ayton, but the other one that does kind of stand out to me a little bit is, of course, Cam Johnson, heading from Brooklyn, coming back to the West Coast into Denver for Michael Porter Jr. It's interesting. Cam Johnson is a little bit better defensively. He has, I think, a little bit of a better shot. Michael Porter Jr. was highly coveted coming out of college, but a lot of injury concerns early in his career. But he played, I think, most of his games the last 2 seasons, whereas Cam Johnson has played fewer games. Cam Johnson is 2 years older. MPJ is 27. Cam Johnson's 29. So I think I think both teams kind of win that trade in a sense, but the Suns are going to see Cam Johnson 2 more times a year than they did before. So that's fun. Hopefully he finds his way back to the Suns before it's all said and done. But if not, I'm always going to have love for Cam J.
Gives me another reason to head back to the Mile High City and go watch the Denver Nuggets once again. Love me some Cam Johnson. Man, what an absolute move by the Denver Nuggets. But I think the big one for me, Chris, is Tyus Jones. And the biggest factor is because he bet on himself and it did not pan out. Now, obviously, he's not getting the veterans minimum, but it's another 1-year deal. It's another bet it and prove it kind of situation for him. And with what the Orlando Magic have been building, I think it's a better situation than obviously what happened with the Phoenix Suns this past year. But for Tyus's sake, man, he's going to have to take the bull by the horns and really just put his foot down and say, this is the kind of guy that I am, because I felt like we were searching for that outside of the first 2 weeks. Because if you think when we were doing our recaps, Chris, you picked him the first 2 weeks as the player of the recap. And then he fell off the face of the earth, as well as the entire of the Phoenix Suns team. But that one is, man, I thought he was at least going to get maybe a 2-year deal, maybe 15 to $20 million. In the NBA, I don't think it kills guys to go on 1-year deals because there is just so much movement every year, but it still is kind of, a testament to what wasn't done by Tyus Jones last year. And I'm hopeful for him. I hope he sees success, especially since he's in the East. So I don't care if the Orlando Magic are good or not. But Chris, we got to roll it back to the Phoenix Suns side. Obviously, we know we are cemented heavily within the second apron. So there's just not a lot of stuff that the Phoenix Suns can do at the moment. But they did make some moves. And it starts off with the 2025 EuroLeague champion, the finals MVP, and a previous Turkish Cup champ / MVP, Nigel Hayes-Davis, as he signs a fully guaranteed 1-year contract. Nigel was undrafted out of Wisconsin in 2017, spent 17 and 18 season with the Knicks G League affiliate. He played 9 total games for 3 teams in that 2017-2018 NBA season for the Lakers, Raptors, and Timberwolves. And if you think about it, he was a part of that Wisconsin team that had Frank Kaminsky. So some more Valley ties. I wonder if he's getting into Frank's ear, talking about what to expect. Even though, I think Frank was around for the beginning of the Matt Ishbia era as we brought him back for just a couple of games there. But Chris, let's start. What do you think of this signing for Nigel Hayes-Davis, the EuroLeague star?
My goodness, we got the MVP, the best player in the league. Mike, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't think this guy's really even going to see the court. There's people on Suns Twitter, and I don't know about Reddit, but like specifically, I saw someone call out Flex from Jersey, where it's like the Suns haven't made a move that Flex doesn't like in like the last 5 years. Like this dude will overhype and glaze any move the Suns make as being like the savior of the organization. And it's just ridiculous, man. Like I don't want to knock this guy. I'm sure he's a great dude, but there's a reason you go undrafted. And then there's a reason you bounce around from team to team to team early in your career. And then you have to go play overseas. And I did a not a deep dive, a light dive, a shallow dive on this guy. And the clips are fairly impressive. Some of these moves, the step back threes are nice, but his stats are okay. I mean, you're talking like 15 points, 6 rebounds, a few assists here and there. And they just won that EuroLeague championship. But if you look at the box scores, it's like 5 guys have 10 points. He has 17 points. Another guy has 12 points. So it's like, it seems like it's a real like team effort over there in the EuroLeague, which I mean, that's great. I'm glad, maybe he's a good team player and he'll be able to help out. But anyone acting like he's going to like make a major impact. I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. If you're interested, give me a call.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny. I think you talked about Flex in his comments as well. I think he he put out a tweet that basically said, "Oh, remember when we brought in another EuroLeague guy who had some big success in PJ Tucker?" And I wanted to be like, Flex, like PJ Tucker didn't help the Suns be successful at all. He saw all of his success outside of Phoenix years down the road. But I mean, that's besides the fact. I always love a good comeback story, man. A guy who beats the odds, goes over, develops his game in one of the better leagues, obviously, in Europe, and gets another opportunity. Why not? But at the end of the day, Chris, this is where the Phoenix Suns sit. Like, these are the kind of guys that they're going to have to take flyers on and see if you're throwing it at the dartboard, if one of them will stick on that big 50 in the middle. Why not? And the same thing is the other guy. I'm echoing why not for this one as well. Guard Colin Gillespie intends to sign a guaranteed 1-year contract as well. He played, I believe, 33 games with us, started 9 last year, averaged 14 minutes, 5.9 points, 2.4 assists, and shot 43.3% from 3, Chris. We touched on Colin Gillespie a little bit on the Heat Check podcast as well. Within his limited time and the opportunities that were given to him, Colin is a very smart player. He is an undersized guard, but we don't have any other point guards. So you need somebody to man the second unit. And when he was given those opportunities, he flourished. And you can obviously remember that big comeback that the Suns had at home against the Los Angeles Clippers, where he was the key catalyst in that game specifically. And he had a nice little stretch from there. But Chris, Colin Gillespie, good to bring him back for the Phoenix Suns?
100%. I mean, he, like you touched on it there. When he got his opportunities, he took advantage. For some reason, Mike Budenholzer wasn't impressed and didn't really give him, very much time. But I remember there was a game later in the season where he basically won it for us, hit a couple big threes down the stretch, is good with the ball, doesn't turn it over a lot. Exactly what you want in a guard. Now, you're right. He's not going to be the starting point guard. He's going to come off the bench, but that's just what we need, honestly. I saw a clip today of him taking Bronny James to the rack, making him look like it was, YMCA basketball on a Sunday morning. But yeah, really, really happy to get Colin Gillespie back. I think he's a 1-year contract, give him another chance, let him come off the bench, see what he can do, and fine. At least we have a point guard on the roster, right?
At least we do. We know that we've heard the rumblings about Chris Paul, where it was coming down to either a choice between the Suns and the Los Angeles Clippers. I don't want to get into that right now. We've heard some, I would say, fake news as well, where a Bradley Beal for LeBron James straight up trade makes sense as well. We're not going to get into that into those shenanigans right now, Chris. But we've laid it all out 48 hours into the NBA free agency period, who's staying put, who's on the move, what the Phoenix Suns have done. But to end this free agency talk, I got to ask you, what NBA team do you think has put themselves in a prime position to catapult up in the standing next year and maybe even be a title contender at this point from the moves they've made? Who you got?
Ooh, when you add the caveat of maybe be a title contender, I don't know.
Well, you don't have, no. If you don't have to be title contenders, but who's shot themselves up in the standings? How about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think this team will make the playoffs. And I'm so glad you're kicking this to me first, because I was afraid of us having the same team and me having to pivot. So maybe I'll make you pivot here. But man, we know the talent is stacked in the West. So when a team in the Eastern Conference can make some moves and bolster their roster, maybe unload some bad contracts, it bodes well for them. And I think for me, that team is the Atlanta Hawks. They are widely praised for their draft success, had some good picks. They acquired Kristaps Porzingis in that trade with the Celtics, only gave up Georges Jang, can't pronounce it. They got rid of Terrence Mann, shipped him out to Brooklyn, which was a bad contract there for Terrence Mann. They got a first-round pick for next year. They added Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a sign-in trade and also got Luke Kennard on a one-year, $11 million deal. Some good role players. Porzingis is going to slate in there nicely. I think he's going to pair well with Trae Young. And that team is, I think going to be on the rise in the East, back in the playoffs and making some waves. And I think also getting the draft stock on top of being able to draft young players is really setting themselves up for some long-term success. So going with the Atlanta Hawks on this one.
I like that. I have some small allegiances to the Atlanta Hawks. I always loved them, especially growing up when Joe Johnson left the Phoenix Suns and went there. Josh Smith is one of my all-time favorite players. Jay Smooth, I'll never forget. Still have his jersey. Was actually wearing it yesterday. So, Chris, I think that is a great pick. But first, I'm going to throw out an honorable mention here, right? I kind of touched on it a little bit. I think the Denver Nuggets, what they're doing so far to start, has been absolutely stellar, right? They bring back Bruce Brown Jr. on a one-year deal after they had to move him, so they didn't go into the luxury. They bring in Tim Hardaway Jr., who's another good stretch wing. Then they trade for Jonas Valanciunas, so they get solidified in that front court for the second unit. Jonas is a little bit older, but man, he's still a good contributor for any team, man. I would love to have Jonas Valanciunas. And then the big one, the trade for Cam Johnson. So they are my honorable mention. But Chris, I think the team that has made the most moves to catapult themselves even higher than where they were, which is they were the number 2 seed, is the Houston Rockets, Chris. The ability for them to keep Jabari Smith Jr. and sign him to that huge extension. You re-sign Steven Adams, 3 years, $39 million. He was amazing for them in the playoffs, Chris, and down the stretch of the season. You bring back Fred VanVleet, 2 years, $50 million. You bring back, not even from last year, you bring back Clint Capella. I mean, yes, Clint's not the same kind of guy, but for a guy who's been there and done that, saw success in Houston, can really be a great veteran presence for still a lot of those young guys. And then they added Dorian Finney-Smith, who I think is an underrated wing in this league as well. 4 years, $53 million. Oh, yeah. And then they traded for Kevin Durant for pennies on the dollar. So my team I'm going with is the Houston Rockets. I think they catapult themselves up even more to where I think a lot of people they never saw them as a threat as the number 2 seed. But if they are the number 2 seed again this year, count your chickens. You might be seeing them run to the Western Conference Finals, especially with the young talent that they have and the veteran presence guys who have been there and done that. So that's who I'm going with, Chris. Ooh, free agency. I mean, once again, 9 days ago was the NBA Finals. Can you wrap your head around any of this yet, Chris?
No, man, it's honestly been crazy. I mean, you're talking about the players getting extended, all the signings we've talked about, but there's so much more that happened that we didn't even really get to touch on. And a lot of trades, Desmond Bame moving to the Magic for KCP and Cole Anthony, Drew Holiday to Portland for Anthony Simons, Jordan Poole for CJ McCollum, Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas. You just mentioned that. Colin Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic, Nurk on the move again, and then Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro. I mean, a lot of moves. The league is going to look very different next season. Man, and we're just getting started. Like you said, we're 48 hours into the free agency period. The official start of the league isn't even for another 5 days. I think it's July 6th that it technically starts and all these things start becoming official. And I think there's more to come. Obviously we talked about Giannis being upset, LeBron maybe being unsure in his contract, Suns trying to move Bradley Beal. So it's going to be plenty to talk about as we move through the offseason. And I'm really excited to see what happens.
Plenty more moves to come. And you guys know we will keep you up to date with all of it. But Chris, it's time to move on to the outlet point guard. And we're going to make a transition. What we've been doing with the outlet point guard for the past 28 episodes, maybe sprinkling a couple of different ones because we've done this or that for the NBA playoffs and whatnot, is transitioning to going down memory lane and taking a trip to nostalgia with the people. As you guys might know, if you have been with us this entire ride of Past the Outlet, I was a Phoenix Suns ball boy at one point in my day. If you can see right here in the corner, that's your boy with the mop getting ready. This was in the, I believe, Western Conference Finals in 2006 against the San Antonio Spurs. You can see Amari's at the line, Sean Marion's there, Tim Duncan, Emmanuel Ginobili. But not only was I a ball boy, I have been a season ticket holder. My dad was a season ticket holder while I was growing up, and now I've taken the other seat alongside with him. But I used to go and get autographs before every game, and I would always stand on the opposing side where the players would run in, because I used to be able to go and get Phoenix Suns autographs at their fan appreciation day before the season started. So I never really had to get those guys. I was always just waiting to see what new player, what new rookies came in. And what we're going to transition the outlet point guard is moving into some signed cards that I have. And we're going to pick one guy each time to go down memory lane and just remember how great or how that kind of player was at the moment. And I think I have a great one to start because it really ties into a couple of different things that we talked about today. Obviously, we started with Malik Beasley from the Detroit Pistons. And I don't know if you saw this recently, Chris, but Devin Booker was out throwing the first pitch at the Detroit Tigers game the other day, and he gave out Nike Book One cleats to a couple of different Tigers players. I think Tarek Skubal, Javi Baez, and Gleyber Torres. And let's give a shout out here to Vic Almighty, who is one of the guys over at Reshoevinator, who has done a lot of customs. He did specifically one for Book into basically kind of like a hiking shoe based off of his model. He did one for Kevin Durant recently. So, the biggest thing here with what I'm trying to say is we got some Detroit ties within today's outlet point guard. And I have to start with this guy. And hold on one second. I got to make sure I pull up everything here. It's the masked wonder, Richard Hamilton. So this card is a 2000 Fleer Game Time second year card of Richard Hamilton when he was on the Washington Wizards. Chris, before we kind of start breaking down who Rip Hamilton was, what do you remember of the masked guy, Richard Hamilton?
Man, yeah, I definitely remember the mask. I mean, I think about that team that had they won the finals, right? With Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups. Like, that was a mean team. I remember my brother Matt loved to use this team in NBA 2K. We would play a ton of 2K7, 2K8, and this team was dangerous. Rip Hamilton was like the dude back then, and man, like, shooting guard, could shoot it, could play defense, just hard grinder. And like the headband and the mask obviously was what stood out the most, because he's one of the only guys to do that. And he wore it even after he didn't need to wear the mask anymore. It wasn't like a couple games thing.
Yeah. And this is why I'm going to have fun doing this, Chris, because there's just a lot of ties that I have to Richard Hamilton, not only as the player, but just different moments within my life that kind of like break in when I think about Richard Hamilton. One specifically is the mask, right? He broke his nose, I think, like 3 or 4 different times, to the point where after it healed that final time, he never took the mask off. I've messed up my ankle so much to the point where even the last time it heals, I don't take off my ankle brace anymore when I play. And every time I think about that, it's because of Richard Hamilton. But let's look at the basketball player, man. 7th overall pick in the 1999 NBA draft. He played with Michael Jordan, the great one. His 3rd and final season with the Wizards, where the season previous, he had to play more small forward, but then was able to move back to his natural shooting guard position. But then he went on to the Detroit Pistons, where he saw the majority of his success, where he spent 9 years. You said it. He helped them to that 2004 NBA championship against the Los Angeles Lakers, and a franchise best record, 64-18 in the 2005-2006 season. Where there's some things where I want to kind of talk about Arizona ties and ties to my life, right? The Spurs went to the finals in the 2004-2005 year where they beat the San Antonio Spurs. That was the first year that I was a ball boy, when the Phoenix Suns were 62-20, the absolute darling of the NBA, the seconds or less team, and we got dominated by the San Antonio Spurs in the Western Conference Finals 4-1. So honestly, should have been the Suns in the finals going up against the Pistons that year. But Chris, how about we throw a trivia question out? Because we're taking a trip down memory lane. Who led the league in points in that season in 2004-2005?
Ooh, oh man. Who led the league in points in 04-05?
I'll give you a hint. I believe maybe 2 or 3 seasons before, his team he basically thrusted his team into the NBA Finals and got a crazy Game 1 victory on the road, where there is a famous play that you will remember it if you just really think about it, where his team won Game 1, but then they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay, so they lost to the Lakers. So it wasn't Kobe Bryant. It was someone in the West. Was it Dirk Nowitzki?
No, it was Allen Iverson. Philadelphia 76ers. He averaged 30.7 points that year. But okay, this isn't about Allen Iverson. We're talking about Richard Hamilton, 14-year pro, 3-time All-Star, Final Four, most outstanding player with the UConn Huskies. He is an NCAA and NBA champion. And Chris, his number 32 is retired for the UConn Huskies and the Detroit Pistons.
Really?
Like, if you think about it, Rip Hamilton had a truly underrated career, if I were to say so myself. 17.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, 3.4 assists. But he was just the mid-range assassin before DeMar DeRozan, right? Like, that was who he was, especially towards the middle of his career and those great teams with the Pistons. But I got to talk about the Arizona Ties a little bit more. So when he was with the UConn Huskies and they won that national championship in 1999, one of his teammates was former Phoenix Suns center Jake Voskuhl, which we just touched on. I threw a little nod out during the Heat Check podcast. He had 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in that game. But before that, he helped make that UConn West regional run in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, where they beat Iowa and Gonzaga at America West Arena in Phoenix. Right? This was back when the NCAA tournament had like host city or host schools. So it was the West Regional hosted by Arizona State University, right? A couple of other ones that I specifically vividly remember is when I was a ball boy on November 19th, 2004, I was working a game, and that was the night of the Malice in the Palace. And I remember being in the back rooms watching the fiasco that was happening at the time in Detroit, where my buddy Michael Nunez's father, Tommy Nunez, was reffing that game. Chris, I mean, see, this is why we're going to have some fun with this transition to outlet point guard, because then the other thing that I vividly remember from being a kid, it's not specifically Richard Hamilton, but it was his teammate Ben Wallace, where he joined forces with Stephon Marbury to go under the Starbury label to release the Big Ben shoes at Stephen Barry's. Chris, you might have been a little too young for that, but it was, Starburys are still kind of around nowadays. Obviously, they're not as high profile as when they first came out. But those shoes, when they first came out, every single model, every single colorway were $14.98. So I had a bunch of pairs of Big Ben Wallace's. I had the shirt too, but Richard Hamilton, man, one of those guys that will go down in infamy, I would say, within my history of basketball. The masked wonder. I loved Richard Hamilton so much, and there was just so many nods to Detroit. We had to throw him in for the first one for the outlet point guard. But Chris, what'd you think, man?
No, I thought that was great. I like seeing those highlights was like such a throwback. All the Valley ties is absolutely crazy. I just think with Richard Hamilton, you can't think about early 2000s basketball without Richard Hamilton and that Detroit Pistons team. It's funny because as you were talking and we were going through this, I immediately thought of Malice at the Palace, and I was like, is he there? Because that's, for better or worse, one of the most famous things that happened with the Detroit Pistons in my lifetime specifically. And he had 20 points in that game. He played a lot in that game. And that was the same year they did go to the NBA finals. They did lose to the Spurs, but that was them going for the back-to-back. Just a very dominant player on a very dominant team during that stretch and that time period. So a great first card and first player to kick this all off with. And I'm really excited for this transition with Pass the Outlet. I think it's a good opportunity for us to kind of step out of the present day and take a look back as we like to be all encompassing in the basketball world here on Pass the Outlet.
We're going to have some fun with that. And Chris, I was looking through my binders. I believe I have over 800 signed basketball cards of just basketball cards. Now, and folks, these are physically signed. Like, I would look up the roster before the games, go through all my cards, because this is when I was big into card collecting, because I'm, a 13-year-old kid at the time. And I would bring every single player's card that I could, and I would bring multiples. So, there's a famous story of me going to a Miami Heat game when Dwayne Wade was a rookie, and me just putting out 3 rookie cards in front of him, and he's looking at me like, oh, you want me to sign all of them? And I was like, I mean, if you can. And he signed all of them. So we got a lot of players that we can get creative and take a deep dive into. But I'm glad we started off with Richard Hamilton. What a trip down memory lane, Chris. But with that being said, it's time to get into Reddit Reacts. So what do you got for us today?
Oh, baby, Reddit Reacts. So I think I got 3 or 4 here for us. It was tough, man, because on Reddit right now, everyone just wants to post their draft picks or who they signed. And it's like, oh, the Suns got Kawan Malawach. And listening back to Heat Check podcast we just did, not to keep plugging it, but I called him Malawach like the first 2 times. And then I started calling him Malawach from there on out.
That's all right. It's the first time you had to say his name. So
right.
You get the grace period.
It's better than Viz Canal, the Cardinals, very brief Cardinals kicker. But yeah, Mike, let's just dive into Reddit Reacts here. This one is from Reddit, the r/Suns Reddit, our favorite subreddit over there. And this is from user Seraph Natsu. About 6 days ago, 10 years ago today, the Phoenix Suns selected Devin Booker. Man, can you believe that Devin Booker has been a Phoenix Sun for 10 years, Mike? 10 years. I still remember when we drafted him. I was in the Fry's parking lot on Guadalupe and McClintock, and you had texted me something like, they say this guy could be like as good as Klay Thompson. Like, he's that good of a shooter. And like, we got him with like the 15th pick. And I was like, man, Devin Booker, all right, man, we'll see. And then I started watching some like YouTube video of him, and I'm like, okay, this kid is pretty good. I don't think any of us really expected him to become the franchise player. I mean, I don't know about you.
No, I don't think so. I think there was a lot of high hopes, but I'll say this: time flies when you're having fun, Chris. It hasn't all been fun, right? Remember the first 7 years? The first 5 years of Devin Booker's career were really, really tumultuous and tough. But yes, I think I remember that exact video that I might have tagged you in on Facebook in 2015.
Yeah,
where it was his highlights from Kentucky. Because you also have to remember, he didn't even start for that team, but that team was loaded. I think they went 37-1, something like that. And he played his role. And the background song on that video was a Logic song. It was from one of his Young Sinatra tracks. That video is no longer available. It got copywritten, and it is no longer available to watch. That was back when I wish I saved those videos and like hardwired them to my computers. But he is a Valley legend already, Chris. It's crazy to think that 10 years has already gone by, and we know that he's going to get his massive payday here shortly. And we know that book 2s are right around the corner. Okay, not right around the corner, spring of 2026, but that'll be here sooner rather than later. We're going to have some interesting discussions once we see the numbers of Devin Booker's extension here. But man, what a run so far. I'm excited to see what comes next for Devin Booker, to be honest with you. And if you want to get your fill, I'm pretty sure the Suns social team put together a YouTube video of every single basket in Devin Booker's career. And I think it's like 17 hours is how long the video is. So if you just want to use it as something to, go to sleep to, it'll probably last you a couple of days to finish that one off. But 10 years already. Let's keep having fun, man.
Yeah, man. It's awesome that the Suns have had a player of his caliber that has stuck around, been there through the lows and then the highs, and now we're kind of on a backslide again. But I think there is reason to be optimistic. That's my key word for the offseason is optimistic, optimism, however you want to say it. I think we have to be. And the biggest thing, the sentiment I'm hearing is there are these rumblings that Booker is in talks about this contract extension. And I think this is going to say a lot about his commitment to the team and how much of a sign-off and a say he had in the moves that were being made this offseason, because the reports are that he was involved in just about every decision they made. And he's earned that. And up to and including the move to get Kevin Durant to Houston. I think he still wants to maintain his friendship with Kevin Durant. I don't think there's any bad blood there. So I think he did want what was best for him. And so that means he was also okay with them getting Jalen Green in return. So very curious to see how those two guys are gonna play together, being the same position, essentially. And I don't know, man. I'm just excited we have Devin Booker. I did not know that compilation was 17 hours long, but it makes sense because Devin Booker has scored a lot of buckets in a Suns uniform. But Mike, let's keep this rocking and rolling. Got a few more here. This one was from like a series of, I think there were 5 or 6 memes within this post. So I picked out a couple of my favorite ones. This was on r/NBA memes on Reddit, and it's a user Organic Coffee Bean said, "Who you got in this compilation of memes?" And this one is Lakers fans complaining about the team not making any moves after completing heist of the century. And it's a picture of the guy who's sitting in shallow water with just his face sticking out and he's crying for help. Mike, do you have any sympathy for Lakers fans and their frustration with no moves being made this offseason?
Not an ounce. And I have been thoroughly enjoying all of the memes for Rob Pelinka. I think I just saw one of him, on a dance floor, doing a jig a little bit. Yeah, I mean, come on, folks. But are we surprised for any kind of Los Angeles fan base to not be happy for one moment? They just want the world. So, hey, just remember, you got your Mickey Mouse championship. So that should last you at least another 10 years. And then, once Luka Doncic flames out here within the next couple of years, then you can start to rebuild like we're trying to do. No, I have a hard time just speaking on Lakers basketball in general, because I don't think it's to the level of the Los Angeles Dodgers, where they just grab every high-profile free agent, because obviously there's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. But, the Lakers somehow always seem to pull the rabbit out of the hat when you think that there's no shot. And they have, once again, a fighting chance to be a team in contention. I mean, like, Chris, 2 years ago, now 3 years ago, when the Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship, did anybody think the Los Angeles Lakers should have been in the Western Conference Finals? No. But somehow, some way, the Los Angeles Lakers find themselves doing a little bit of a dip and then catapulting themselves way up, because I don't know if you want to put the tinfoil hat on, maybe it's the NBA getting involved to keep them as a high-profile organization. But not an ounce of sympathy for you. Deal with Luka Doncic, and it sounds like maybe you get DeAndre Ayton, so I would be grateful if he went there so you could deal with that headache as well. I feel so bad for the Portland Trailblazers when they've been trying to turn the corner over the past 2 years, and now they kind of have to restart with some younger guys. But yeah, good riddance.
You gotta love it, man, and I wish nothing but the worst for the Lakers and their organization. Just so much to dissect there, and I'll just hit it at a real high level. Like, it's just funny with the Lakers fan, and you touched on it a lot there, but anytime a high-profile player expresses any interest in leaving the team they're currently on, Lakers fans are like, "Oh, we're getting Nikola Jokic. Oh, we're getting Giannis." And like somehow they do manage to keep getting these superstar players. And that move for Luka, like nobody saw it coming. That was just absolutely ridiculous. But like I mentioned, LeBron doesn't like playing with Luka because he's not the main character anymore. Luka, they're both ball dominant. Austin Reeves, is that who it is? Yeah, he doesn't like playing with Luka because Luka likes to hold the ball until there's 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And then what is Austin Reeves supposed to do with that? Getting DeAndre Ayton would be exactly what they deserve, and I hope that happens. But it is funny for us to be able to clown on him. I do think you're onto something there with your maybe conspiracy theory that the NBA likes having big market teams be successful and be making playoff runs. There was a lot of criticism about TV ratings, and nobody wanted this NBA Finals between the Thunder and the Pacers. But as a fan of a small market team, I love it. And I just want the best basketball. And it was a 7-game series. And that's the best you can ask for the NBA Finals, the playoffs, or the finals in general. But Mike, I'll hit 2 more real quick. We'll touch on this one super quick. I don't think we have to talk about this a lot. This was just another meme from the same slide. And it's the cycle of the Washington Wizards. And it's just like a Wojak meme with a Wizards hat on. And it's tank, and then they tank, and then they tank, and then they tank, and then they complete the full circle back to tanking. I mean, what an absolute poverty franchise. I mean, you can be a small market team, but like, have the Wizards ever been good?
Yeah, in like 2016, when they brought in Paul Pierce for the end of his career, and John Wall and Bradley Beal actually were healthy. It's been a decade. You know, they're going through what the Phoenix Suns went through from 2012 to 2020, but it's still head scratchers, Chris. Like, I know Jordan Poole is a polarizing player, but he's still pretty good to a certain extent. I mean, trading him for CJ McCollum, who's about to be 34 years old, and then you have Chris Middleton, whose knee is broken half the time, and you're getting older when you were supposed to be bringing in younger pieces. Like, what's happening? I don't know. It puts things into perspective as a fan of a team that, you know, overall has been pretty good the entirety of their franchise history outside of winning a championship. But like, it can always be worse, and worse is the Washington Wizards. And I feel really bad for any of their fans right now, because it doesn't seem like there is an end in sight for them, which is always a tough scenario to be in as a fan.
Yeah, no, and that's the exact right perspective. I mean, it could always be worse. How do you parlay all of these assets into absolutely nothing is truly incredible. And you know, like I said, you just need that perspective sometimes to be grateful for what we have. We were just in the NBA Finals within the last 5 years. Like, could be worse. The Wizards will not sniff the NBA Finals for maybe my entire lifetime. I wouldn't doubt it. But last one, Mike, I got one more for you, and I think I might have saved the best for last. I'm gonna put it up on the screen, and then I just want you to react to it. This is from r/NBA memes, and it's When Machines Cry, and they said NBA free agency opens tonight. Kevin Durant, deep down, I'll always be a free agent at heart.
It's almost the truth, Chris. Now, especially since the Oklahoma City Thunder have won a championship and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is their franchise's darling, everybody is going to rank him higher than Kevin Durant. I think there are some, if not a lot of people, who rank Russell Westbrook above Kevin Durant. So, yes, Kevin Durant is an Oklahoma City legend, but they're still, like, he goes there and they boo him, right? There is the connotation of him not being able to get it done. That's why he had to join the Warriors. So yes, he has 2 titles, but do they embrace him the same way? Especially now that he's made multiple other stops, going on to his 3rd different team since being in Golden State. We know it was a disaster in Brooklyn. You can say it was a disaster here in Phoenix. Kevin Durant cannot really lay his head down and say, this is home to anywhere. So that's why you can look at this and say, deep down, yes, he always will be a free agent at heart because there is no team that truly wants to claim him. And that is crazy to think about from a top 15 NBA player of all time, right? To not have a true state or fan base that will take you in completely and say, no, we don't even want to have you labeled as those other stops that you might have had. Because, how often is it that guys play for one team their entire career? But, a lot of Suns fans would say, yeah, Steve Nash made a bunch of stops, but he's our guy, right? He is a Phoenix Sun. Kevin Durant does not have that. So he's always going to be a free agent, which is crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, he was a sympathetic figure for the first nine years of his career in Oklahoma City, a small market team, underdog team, have 2 MVPs at certain points in their career, play for them, be at the cusp of it. And then he just gives up and takes the easy route out. And no matter what he says, that will always be the perception. And not only that is, he has managed to burn the bridge every time he leaves an organization. And I know we talked about Kevin Durant a lot, especially the last, few months as all this has been going on. And he has the Twitter fingers. And I think he's leaving a legacy of, being a little bit maybe of a narcissist than of being one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it. Because at the end of the day, Kevin Durant is one of the all-time greats. Love him or hate him, like he can score. He's one of the most lethal shooters of all time. It's a shame to see him kind of maneuver throughout his career the way he did. And I'm not saying he can't play for multiple teams or want to be in the best situation possible for him, but at what point is it like, it's kind of on you, man. It's kind of on you. And obviously we're going to look back on the last 2 years of him being a Phoenix Sun with not the most favorable view. And it's a shame. It's not necessarily his fault. I don't think there's really any one thing you can say where it's this person's fault or this move. It was a culmination of unfortunate events. Actually, I take all of that back. It's Bradley Beal's fault, but that's all I got to say on that. That was Reddit Reacts.
Oh, dude. No, I mean, Kevin Durant is basically a free agent in life too, man. Like he hasn't settled down. Like he's just always on the move, which is fine. But man, at some point you just got to think that's a little lonely of a life. But KD, do your thing in Houston. Good luck. I'm going to miss him a little bit. Chris, are you going to miss him? Like, do you think?
Yeah, no, I'll miss him. He was fun to watch. Reliable.
He was.
I mean, when he stepped on the court, 20 points easy. He walked in the gym and got 20 points. And
it's just always great for your fan base to have that high profile of a player on your team. It doesn't come around that often. So I am going to miss that factor. And it didn't work out and it sucks, but find your resting place, KD. Hopefully it is in Houston, because we know that he went to Texas, and I'm sure they're going to embrace him with open arms, especially if they are successful this next season and beyond. But Chris, what an episode 29. Next month we're hitting another milestone, episode 30. We'll have to do some game planning to see and get creative on doing something fun with that as well. But man, I will say this. Let's give a shout out to the WNBA real fast to end off things, Chris. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever just beat the Minnesota Lynx 74-59 for the first ever WNBA Commissioners Cup. So they are the in-season tournament champions. Golly, the in-season tournament has found its way into the NBA. Yikes. Anyways, and shout out the Phoenix Mercury, man. If you are in the Valley, go see these girls play. They have been absolutely stellar. They're 12-5. They're second in the league, man. Sato Sabali is just amazing. Elisa Thomas, Kaylee Cooper is healthy. They've been on a winning streak. They just lost to the Aces, but they've been on a tear. So go out and support the Mercury. But Chris, before we leave, I'll pass it over to you. Do you got anything else for the people one time?
Nah, man. I mean, just really excited to keep pushing and wow, past the outlet coming up on episode 30 is crazy. I love getting on here and talking basketball with you. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. here on the Valley Sports Plug Network. Next Tuesday, it's the Heat Check Live, the return of VSP Tallman. He's been the traveling man. Excited to have him back. But Mike, appreciate hopping on here with you and look forward to the next one as always.
Absolutely. We'll be back next month with episode 30. But we appreciate you guys. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to us here on Valley Sports Plug YouTube. Follow us at AZ_VSP on all socials. And stay in tune with the Valley, man. Like Chris said, July is a long month. And since we stream on Tuesdays, we got 4 more streams for you guys this month. But with that being said, this was Past the Outlet, episode 29. I'm your co-host, Michael Benjamin. That's Chris Patrick. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ball is life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. You want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah! The Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it. Wow.
The ruling on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never going to catch us slipping. With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select
3, 2,